But what happened in Bangalore is the stuff that dreams are made of. Safe to say, Bangaloreans left their mark on me, and I left my mark on Bangaloreans, literally and metaphorically. Without trying to be insensitive to those who faced much harsher consequences during the lockdown, from a personal standpoint, the lockdown was such a blessing. I started this YouTube channel, I wrote an ebook on investment banking, spent quality time with my mom, which I still continue to do, and most importantly, spent quality time in solitude, just reflecting and doing a lot of soul searching. The only downside, but a big fucking downside, was the fact that I went for weeks, perhaps even months at a stretch, without seeing a single girl, let alone getting any action. During the first few months of this barren spell, I used to justify my circumstances by telling myself that I, just like Picasso, am channeling all my sexual energy into my work and my creative endeavors. And so all of a sudden, I found myself to be a part of the semen retention cult. These justifications worked for a few months, after which there was so much pent-up sexual energy within me that my creative endeavors weren't serving as a big enough release for it. The dam was quite literally on the verge of bursting. Besides, I couldn't help but conclude that more than 50% of the dudes who are big on semen retention are big on it because they don't get any action. And so in late 2020, I downloaded Bumble and Tinder. I didn't have too much of a history with these apps prior to 2020. I hardly ever used them during my 7 years in America between 2011 and 2018 because I was getting enough action anyway. 4.5 years spent getting fucked by engineering at Georgia Tech, followed by 2.5 years spent getting fucked by investment banking at Goldman Sachs. However, I must point out that when I was in Delhi in early 2019, the girl that I briefly dated was someone I had matched with on Tinder. But apart from the odd success or two, I never really took these apps seriously, or even when I did, I hardly ever experienced any luck on them, which would just result in me deleting the apps shortly after having downloaded them because I was a fucking loser who thought that deleting the apps was the best way to cope with the dejection stemming from my lack of success on these apps. But this time around, I firmly decided that I'm going to keep at it, keep experimenting, keep chipping away until I start to enjoy the rub of the green. So I set out on my mission, but experienced little to no success during the first week or two. But instead of becoming despondent and becoming a Devdas, I kept telling myself something I learned from Virat Kohli, which is that you either win or you learn. In other words, I kept using the information that I was deriving from each new trial or iteration to recalibrate my approach in terms of how to initiate a conversation, how to escalate it to the next level, how to embellish my profile on the app, etc., until I pretty much figured out the winning combination. And so after a long drought, it finally started to rain in mid-December. And as they say, when it rains, it fucking pours. It all started with a couple of brilliant dates in Kolkata, but as luck would have it, as soon as I was starting to gain solid confidence and solid momentum, I was asked by the company that I work for to travel to Bangalore for work. I was absolutely gutted because I thought that this trip was now going to put the brakes on the solid progress that I was beginning to make. But what happened in Bangalore is the stuff that dreams are made of. Safe to say, Bangaloreans left their mark on me, and I left my mark on Bangaloreans, literally and metaphorically. Now that I've laid the foundation by very shamelessly revealing some of the salient recent developments in my personal life and revealing more skin than I perhaps should have, let's explore some of the reasons behind my recent success on these dating apps. But before that, a quick disclaimer. Anubhav's advice is subject to dating risk. Please think carefully before implementing. In other words, what I'm going to talk about is what worked for me. But there's more than one way to skin a cat, so please don't feel compelled to implement all of these. Apply whatever you think makes sense for you and discard the rest. But I will say that everything that I'm going to talk about is universal in its applicability, in the sense that it applies to both guys and gals, and to those looking for relationships as well as those looking for something casual. So may the odds be in your favor, and may that be the case very soon in light of Valentine's Day being around the corner. Point number 1, my suggestion to you is to have 2 pictures on your profile, which I think is the sweet spot. 3 pictures at most. And the reason I say that is because once you've picked your 2 best pictures, I don't think having any more pictures can help all that much. It can only hurt. So the upside is limited, but there's great downside. There are so many times when I see the first couple of pictures on someone's profile and I'm captivated. But then when I scroll down to see the 3rd and the 4th and the 5th pictures, I go, not as attractive as I thought. So I'd say be a minimalist when it comes to the number of pictures on your profile. You'd rather have 2 great pictures on your profile only, as opposed to having 2 great pictures and another 2 or 3 so-so pictures, which only serves to diminish the aesthetic value of the profile. So remember, less is more. The mental model that you should use when deciding whether a picture is worth adding to your profile or not is hell yeah, otherwise No. These are the two pictures I've showcased on my profile. What's ironic is that the first picture that you see was taken by someone I'd met through Bumble when I was on a date with her. Don't you love it when your dates take such beautiful pictures of you that you can then add to your Bumble profile to secure more dates in the future? I'm just kidding, by the way. Of course, I don't mean that seriously. Can someone this adorable ever be such a big bastard? If you're confused about your 2 or 3 best pictures amongst the ones that you've shortlisted, please get a second opinion from a friend, preferably someone of the opposite sex. You know, I've absolutely no qualms about admitting that I've done that. You could ask a family member as well, but do so at your own peril. I asked my mother for her opinion, saying that it's important because these pictures will go up on my dating app. I didn't get an opinion, I got a tight slap instead. According to me, it's absolutely inexcusable to leave the About Me section blank and not make use of the profile prompts because these elements add so much flavor to your profile when used correctly. Just having pictures on your profile, A, makes it seem incomplete, and B, makes it seem like a low effort job on your part. Girls can still get away with not having these sections on their profile because there are differences between what guys are drawn to in girls and what girls are drawn to in guys. But if you're a guy, you'll be doing a major disservice to yourself by not having these sections on your profile. So put them to good use, keeping the following pointers in mind. Point A, do not make these sections too long. You definitely want to invoke interest in you, but you don't want to end up revealing all your cards. So don't end up writing a fucking Ramayana or a Mahabharata, especially when the attention span of adults these days is worse than that of a 2-year-old. So keep things precise, crisp, neat, and pleasing to the eye in terms of layout. Point B, please utilize your creative juices when composing your About Me section and when composing the answers to your profile prompts. You do not want to come up with something that's dull, bland, boring, and something cliched that you find on the profile of every Tom, Dick, Harry, Raj, Simran. What is the way to my heart? Food. So original. We'll get on well if you're funny, witty, and original because clearly I suck at that. My guilty pleasure? Chocolates. Also the guilty pleasure of 8 billion other people. The one superpower that I have? Putting people off to sleep with my boring Bumble profile. I personally would rather say something outrageous or ludicrous than say something bland or cliched, but that's just me. My point here being that spend a little bit of time composing something that stands out to some extent because that time investment that you make or that little bit of creativity that you showcase will pay dividends. Not only will it get you more matches, but it's also going to make it very easy for your matches to actually initiate a conversation with you because what you have on your profile will actually give them great potential conversation starters. Otherwise, they'll probably just kick the conversation off with a simple hi or a hey because they couldn't glean any interesting bits of information about you through your profile, which had no substance. This is all the information that I have in my About Me section. And then these are the profile prompts that I picked and my respective answers to these prompts. It just took a little bit of creative effort on my part, and look at how well it pays off in terms of giving my matches conversation starters. Anubhav Talks Here being the name of my YouTube channel, which I have listed in my bio. And when I lauded her for a witty opening sentence, which was responsible for setting the tone for a chat, she even mentioned that profiles without bios make it hard to come up with a conversation starter other than a boring hi or a hey, which sums up what I was talking about earlier. Point number 3, which isn't as big of a deal but still worth mentioning, I would stay away from publicizing my political leaning. It doesn't help in any way, but has the potential to really hurt, especially given how divided the world has become. Earlier, I used to specify conservative on my profile because I felt that along the spectrum, I was closer to the conservative side than to the liberal side. But now I'd like to think that I'm neither conservative nor liberal and that I'm more of a common sense kind of guy. So now I don't specify anything, and I suggest that you take a similar approach for a similar reason as why having too many pictures on your profile can backfire, more downside risk than upside potential. Isn't it funny that just a few months ago, I was giving advice on how to create a compelling resume, and now I'm giving advice on how to create a compelling dating app profile? Anubhav, never change. So far, everything that I've talked about will help you get more matches. Now coming to chatting with your matches. It's important to understand that the start of any conversation is half the battle. You know, similar to how it goes in interviews as well. The first few minutes of any interview, or how you answer the tell me about yourself question, which is typically the first question that's thrown your way, can make or break your chances. If your match starts the conversation in a very enterprising manner, as opposed to saying a hi or a hey, then make sure to cash in by saying something witty or funny, something exciting, something interesting, something that's out of the ordinary, something that jumps off the page. A couple of ways in which I've done that. Never have I ever, she says, and then I reply saying, been more curious about what N stands for. N here being the initial of her first name, because Bumble doesn't reveal the full first name of your match in some cases. And then she proceeds to tell me what her first name is. Another example, I'm asked, what are you thinking about after 2 glasses of wine? Is the third glass on its way? But even if they initiate a conversation with a simple hi or a hey, try responding with something more creative than a hey or a how's it going or a how are you. What really helps is skimming through the profile of my match to see if I can pick up a good conversation starter from her profile. It shows that you're curious about the other person and you end up making them the focus. And who doesn't like getting attention? My match here kicking the conversation off with a hey, and I compose a reply based on the observations I made on her profile, which led to a full-blown discussion on our respective experiences abroad. Similar example, Matt says, hey, what's up? I had studied her profile, so I reply with something thoughtful, and you can clearly sense the excitement in her reply. Andrew Schultz, by the way, is a comedian, in case you're wondering. In general, it's always a good idea to study the profile of the guy or girl you've matched with. Even if you don't end up sourcing information from his or her profile that you end up using to start a conversation with him or her, it invariably ends up helping in some way or the other during the course of the conversation. Plus, it makes it very evident to the other person that you've done your homework, so to speak. Another very simple trick to get the conversation moving that pretty much always works for me is that if I'm having that conversation on a Monday, I'll ask about how her weekend was. In a similar vein, if I'm having that chat on a Friday, I'll ask if she has any fancy weekend plans in store. If I'm having that chat during the weekend, I'll ask how the weekend has been thus far. This again is another smart way of taking advantage of the fact that people love talking about themselves, especially the fun things that they do. And the weekend is typically when they carry out those fun things. Sometimes your match might not reply to you after the initial pleasantries. You might think that he or she is ghosting you, but you'll be surprised by how often that's not the case. And so if it's someone I'm really keen on continuing to chat with, I gently nudge with a short follow-up message, and that's all that's needed for the conversation to come to life again. Similar to sending a follow-up email, the only difference is that that's on the professional front, this is on the personal front. You should know what your USP is or what your primary strength is and make sure that you're playing to that strength of yours. My strength is my wordplay, so much so that I actually feel that Jason Mraz sang his song Wordplay keeping me in mind. It's all about the wordplay. For me, clever wordplay is what leads to foreplay. And sometimes I end up enjoying the wordplay so much that I'm like, foreplay bhaad mein jaye. Let's just continue enjoying the wordplay. And then I wonder why some people call me a chutia. But jokes apart, given my way with words, it's actually in my best interest to drive or dominate the conversation because that would mean exercising that strength of mine as much as possible. In other words, given this strength of mine, I personally don't believe in the advice that's often peddled that you shouldn't write all that much. Otherwise, you might come across as desperate and you should play somewhat hard to get. I disagree because I believe that if you're good with words, use that weapon instead of leaving it on the shelf. You'll get duly rewarded with compliments such as these. I ought to mention that whatever wordplay I've learned through the techniques that I talk about in these two videos that are an absolute must watch if you want to hone your own wordplay, your English speaking skills and your communication skills in general. So add both videos to your watch later list. You'll thank me later. There's no one who can beat you at being you. And so it's imperative that you're as authentic as possible in the manner in which you chat. A big part of my authentic self is my very quirky nature. In fact, in this video, I even talk about how proudly exhibiting my quirks as opposed to hiding them has really helped to change my luck with the ladies for the better. And so if being my quirky self works wonders for me during in-person encounters, I'd be a fool to not be the same way when chatting on a Bumble or a Tinder or some other dating app. I say quote unquote dumb and borderline cheesy shit like what's the secret behind your incredibly glowing skin in your first picture? But a lot of my matches don't seem to mind it. Here's another example. Bumble lists your name as M. Shame on me for not asking earlier what M stands for, but can hazard a few guesses. Marvelous, mesmerizing, magnificent. To which she says, M stands for all of that, but also stands for what her actual name is. I then say, yep, those prefixes go very well with your actual name. And then she says, no one has ever made it sound so pleasing to my ears. Because they can tell that I'm just being skittish and frivolous and playful, they actually don't mind playing along, as you saw there. However, I will say that the cheesy shit that I say can sometimes backfire as well, like it sort of happened here. I ask, what do you have a postgraduate degree in? Fashion, beauty, elegance, and then she replies saying, oh damn, I really expected more from you. But when that happens, just laugh it off. Be cool, nonchalant, and unapologetic about it. If you've got a power move up your sleeve, like I did on this occasion, you can even use it to convert what appears to be a potential stumbling block into a stepping stone because they really like acts of confidence. So to sum up, do not act out of character because people can easily sense that. According to me, nothing sexier and more charismatic than being yourself. yourself. So the conversation has been trending well so far. You're cruising along, but you see, it's a competitive world out there. You can't be cruising along at the same speed forever. You've got to up the ante. You've got to take it to the next level. You have to move up a gear. You've got to show more intent, as King Kohli would say. You've got to escalate, and you've got to do so in as smooth and organic a manner as possible. Here's an example. How's your Sunday been? It was hectic again. So clearly she seems a bit frustrated. I sense an opening. I say, but not the worst end to the day, I'm guessing, given that you're chatting with me, I'd like to think. So that worked. Great. Let's simmer it down for a wee bit now before we strike again. I say, hope this upcoming week isn't as brutal, but oops, she says, it's going to be worse. The next 2 weeks are going to be that way. Time to pull another rabbit out of the hat. Are you really telling me that you won't be able to carve time out for me for another 2 weeks at least? Surely not, right? She's now sensed my intent and she likes it. She's showing some receptivity by not ruling out a possible meeting despite being incredibly busy. But given the fact that she's mentioned that she'll be incredibly busy, she can't be like, of course I'll be free. So my next message is, you won't regret carving out a couple of hours. The only regret you might have is not having carved out more. Boom! That's it. Signed, sealed, delivered. The art of escalation at its finest. Another very quick example. My match tells me that she's going on a vacation in 2 weeks' time to Goa. Sensing an opportunity, I reply to her saying, that's you tacitly saying that we ought to meet before you leave. Challenge accepted, my friend. And that results in a very promising response to what I wrote. So to summarize, I'll say that you've got to be sharp and vigilant. You've got to see openings where others might not see them. And when you do come across one, jump right in, because if you're overly patient, that can actually backfire. Being a tad impatient can actually be a virtue here. And one of the reasons why I'm a tad impatient when it comes to escalating is because although I might be very good at the art of spontaneous written wordplay, I'm way, way better in person. That is at the art of spoken wordplay. And so if I take a fancy to someone and sense that the other person is also warming up to me, I don't waste too much time in taking it to the next level by asking the other person out, but I do so in as seamless and organic a manner as possible, as opposed to randomly asking, hey, do you want to meet sometime soon? Which can come across as a bit abrupt and rough around the edges. At some stage during the conversation, it's highly likely that the two of you will end up discussing what each of you is looking for in a potential association. And based upon my experiences, I'd strongly suggest being as open and upfront about this as possible. So if it's a relationship that you're looking for, say it. If it's something casual like a fling, be honest about it. If you still aren't sure and would just like to go with the flow, that's totally cool as well, as long as you aren't trying to deceive the other person by intentionally withholding what your intentions are when that topic does come up, or by lying about your intentions. One of the most counterproductive things that you can do, especially when you know what you're looking for and you aren't just going with the flow, is to spend a great deal of time chatting and dilly-dallying and beating around the bush, only to later realize that the two of you aren't on the same page with regard to what each is looking for. For example, I was recently in Bangalore for a 1-week work trip, and so while I was there, I was looking for something very casual along the lines of a fling. And I made sure to be very open and honest about that right from the get-go, because I was only there for a week. There were many who weren't on the same page, which is something I'd braced myself for, but most, if not all of them, conveyed that to me very politely because they probably respected my radical honesty. On the other hand, there were some who did find themselves on the same page as I was and probably appreciated the fact that I was radically honest in telling them that, hey, look, full disclosure, I'm in Bangalore until the 27th only, so mainly looking for something casual, perhaps along the lines of a fling. And if that blossoms into a friendship that we can maintain even after I leave the city, that'll be a great added bonus. Because I was honest and open and upfront about what I was looking for, that paved the way for them to be radically honest with me as well, as you can clearly tell from these. Of course, this was a very specific type of circumstance that I described, in which you're in a city for just a few days. But generally speaking, as soon as you feel that you've developed somewhat of a rapport with the other person, do not shy away from opening up by very respectfully making your intentions known to the other person, because that's going to go a long way towards determining compatibility between the two parties and whether or not it's actually worth continuing to pursue the other party. Asking for the other person's phone number is another form of escalation, and when it comes to asking for the number, the golden rule that you should keep in mind is to ask at a time when the conversation is on a high. And that typically happens when there's some sort of chemistry that's brewing up between the two of you. And that's the case when you experience a feel-good factor or a high that stems from having hit it off with the other person. So I honestly just end up trusting my gut and seizing the initiative as and when I feel my match is taking a liking to me. I'll give you an example here. My match told me that she can spend hours and hours going through famous quotes, to which I replied in my usual usual quirky manner that I bet she hasn't gone through quotes by this wannabe philosopher named Anubhav Jain, to which she replies, "Gone through them, swiped right on his profile and talking to him now, my pleasure." There was just something about this reply that indicated to me that she had warmed up to me and was starting to develop a little bit of fondness. And so soon after, I just mentioned that I'm about to head out for dinner and that I'll text her later on WhatsApp if she's cool with that. And sure enough, she was cool with that. As you saw there, I keep things very simple and polite in terms of how I ask for the number. Something as simple as feel free to reply to me on WhatsApp if you feel that's easier. And they're typically very receptive to that as long as you've nailed the timing of the ask. Now, I mentioned earlier that I trust my gut to tell me when's the appropriate time to ask for the number, but it doesn't always work out according to plan. My gut might think that the time is appropriate, but my matches might think it's still a bit premature to be exchanging numbers. Having said that, my gut gets it right 8 or 9 times out of 10, and so I continue to repose my trust in it. I'd strongly suggest speaking over the phone at least once before finalizing a date. You know, people's writing can come across as very impressive, but the manner in which they speak can be just as underwhelming. So don't get carried away solely based on someone's writing, which is a much more passive form of communication compared to engaging in real-time conversation. In other words, in addition to a written test, do an oral test as well, lest you think that you're about to meet a Shakespeare based on that person's writing, but that person ends up sounding like a Rakhi Sawant in real life. With due respect to Rakhi Sawant, by the way, I used to have a massive crush on her when I was in class 8. When the two of you have agreed to go on a date, to the extent possible, avoid activities that do not play to your strengths. My strength lies in my conversational skills, which is why movie dates are a complete no-go for me. Not to mention the fact that I'm too impatient and restless to watch a movie. In fact, this is also one of the reasons why I'm not the biggest fan of dates that entail eating a full-blown meal. Your attention is divided between the food and your date, and the eating just ends up interrupting or diminishing the conversational flow. It can actually work wonders if you're not the most free-flowing conversationalist, because the chewing can help you buy some time to think of what to say next. But if you're someone who enjoys free-flowing conversation and is good at facilitating it, then avoid full-blown meals during dates. Especially burritos. I swear those flimsy fuckers choose the worst times to completely break apart, after which you're left with a soggy and sloppy mess in front of you. During the date, just go out there and confidently express yourself. And what's really going to help you do that is spending a little bit of time right before the date doing something that gives you that feel-good factor. And that differs from person to person. It could mean listening to music for some, or smashing a workout, which is what I typically do, or even doing as little as 10 push-ups, which really helps in getting the blood flowing. If you're wise, then you would also watch this video of mine that'll propel your confidence through the bloody roof. The other thing that I sometimes do on the day of the date is to just skim through the Bumble or Tinder profile of my date once again, just so that I have pieces of information about the other person fresh in my mind. For the same reason, I just very briefly go through the conversation that I've had so far with that person on the dating app and on WhatsApp. Think of this exercise as the research or the due diligence that you do on a client before a meeting with that client. The way this helps is that once you store some of the information in your head, you sometimes very instinctively end up using it during the course of the conversation, which really impresses the other person because it gives the impression to him or her that you were actually paying attention to what he or she was writing when the two of you were texting, and that you were diligent enough to remember some of it. Lastly, if the elements that you have on your profile, your conversational style, etc., seem to be working well for you, do not tinker with them too much. Oftentimes, in a bid to experience even more success than what we're already experiencing, we end up getting a bit greedy and unnecessarily start to fiddle and experiment too much, which can backfire. A lot of my purple patches have come to an end only because I've unnecessarily changed things around when there was absolutely no need to have done so. In a nutshell, as they say in sports, do not change a winning combination unless you're damn sure that the edit or the modification is an upgrade. So that's that, my friends, from your professional development guru to your dating guru. No wonder they call me Mr. Versatile. And by they, I mean Anubhav Jain only. If anything that I talked about ends up doing magic for you, or even if it just instills in you the courage to try your hand at the game of online dating, you really fucking owe me one. But भाई और बहनों से कोई कुछ थोड़ी ना मांगता है, तो बस इस वीडियो को लाइक कर दो, मेरे चैनल को सब्सक्राइब कर दो, मुझे इंस्टाग्राम और ट्विटर पर फॉलो कर दो, और अगर बहुत प्यार आ रहा है, then feel free to buy me a beer using this link that's in the description. A happy Valentine's Day in advance to all of you. May the odds be in your favor. If it ends up working out for you because of this video, then definitely let me know, especially if you're a guy, because I'll be happy that I'm finally getting some competition. You know, it gets a bit lonely at the top. I'm just kidding. Enough of me. Until next time, stay safe, take care, keep smashing it, and cheers.